Just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take your time. Awesome. Well, we are now joined by Cliff Daniels, the crew chief of the number 48 Ally Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. And hey, Cliff, this weekend is the moment of truth for the 48 team. Talk about how just the mindset of the team as you head into the World Center of Racing at Daytona International Speedway this weekend.
Yeah, obviously a lot riding on this race, but really the whole season, I'm very proud of our team, as resilient as we've been. Facing the many challenges that have come our way, we've continued to put fast race cars on track. Obviously, a missed race and a DQ really hurt us and put us in a tough spot in points. And no excuses. Now it's time to go execute and make sure we put the best car on track and hopefully have a little luck on our side at the Speedway race in Daytona and just go fight it out to the end.
Good deal. We're going to open the floor up for questions, and our first question is going to come from Claire B. Lang. Go ahead with your question, Claire. You're on mute, my friend. There you go.
Thank you, Cliff. Do you feel the pressure? And I know you're an executor. You execute things. You're very controlled on the radio. Internally, within your team, do you feel the pressure?
I feel substantially less pressure right now than I felt trying to recover from a lot of the challenges that came our way earlier in the year. Again, like I said, from the DQ at Charlotte and making sure we stayed on the rails after that, continue to prepare, good and fast race cars. After Jimmy missing a race, that race was kind of a double whammy for us, right? Because we lost our driver for the race, and then we get wrecked on lap, 12 or whatever it was on pit road. That was a big kick in the gut, and we came back and we responded, went to Kentucky, went to Texas with fast race cars, horrible results, get crashed or have issues on track. So I felt more pressure then to make sure that our team continued to have the positive mindset, to continue pushing, to put fast race cars on track and move forward, and just make sure everybody was kind of in a good peace of mind during those times. And I feel right now, it's a speedway race. There are so many unknowns. All we can do is control what we're able to, work with our teammates, have a good plan for the race. Chips are going to fall where they may. And again, I'm proud of the resilience that we showed throughout the year to keep ourselves on the rails. And now, we're in a tough spot, but we're going to go race them hard on Saturday night.
If you are able to get into the playoffs, what does the 48 have, do you think, for a run at it?
There's a lot of tracks that typically when you go into the playoffs, and I understand there's a few different tracks this year than there typically are. There's a lot of really good tracks for Jimmy and for the 48 over time in history that we can identify. And Darlington, obviously we had great runs at Darlington earlier in the season. Of course we got wrecked from the lead, but then we came back, and after starting last in the second race, ended up with a nice top 10 result. So I have a lot of positive anticipation going to Darlington. The short tracks, we have improved. We, Hendrick Motorsports and the 48 team, we've improved a lot this year over where we've been in the last few years. So a lot of positivity going there. Then you have, Vegas, Texas, Kansas, all places that have been strong for us, and a few others in the mix. The Roval, of course, which we have good success with Hendrick Motorsports, and a near miss for a win a couple years ago with Jimmy. So I have a lot of anticipation going into the playoffs that we can make a strong run at it, assuming that we get in. And our team has been built and kind of designed around identifying these tracks and making sure that when we go into the playoffs, we're as strong as we can be.
Good luck. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.
Our next question is going to come from Bob Pockris. Go ahead with the question, Bob.
Yeah, Cliff, how much do you anticipate telling Jimmy in that final stage, hey, you have to finish this many spots ahead of so-and-so, or at a place like Daytona, is it not even worth mentioning considering what can happen in one lap?
That's a good question, Bob. And right now my goal is to win both stages and win the race. That takes care of everything. And beyond that, man, if it really has to come down to it, I may tell him. But I promise you, we all know Jimmy Johnson. He is going to be scratching and clawing for every spot no matter what. And if we're second, if we're 12th, if we're 22nd, it doesn't matter what it is. He's going to be trying to pass the guy ahead of him. So, yeah, I can't say that we won't have our eye on it. But to be honest, it's not going to be a huge point for us. We've got to maximize everything that we can. And if he can get his bumper ahead, nose ahead, or set up a pass on a guy in front of him, that's our goal. That's what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our next question will come from Dustin Long. Go ahead with your question, Dustin.
Thank you. Cliff, I'm curious, what would be the challenges for you if your path it becomes divergent from the manufacturer path? Obviously, we've seen the manufacturers all work together. So if the Chevys are going to want to pit at a particular time, but that might impact stage points, how do you work through that? Or, or do you have to just kind of fall in line with the manufacturer because that's the best thing because the number of cars?
I think in this case, it's a lot more of an aligned strategy than what you may be describing. The best position we can put ourselves in to succeed is going to be to work with our Hendrick Motorsports teammates and our Chevrolet teammates. There's two of the Chevrolets that points mean everything, which is the 24 and the 48. And then we've got a handful of other Chevrolets that winning means everything because they really aren't within striking distance of the points. So the best way that all of those cars, whether it's points related or win related, can put themselves in a spot to maximize their day is going to be to work with one another. And frankly, that's why we've seen over the last handful of speedway races, the OEM strategy become so important. Is the best position that some of those other OEMs are going to be in to win is going to be to work with each other, right? And same thing in our case. So we've already been, kind of thinking about what our day is going to be like and how to approach it. And I'm sure we'll have the communication, amongst our group at Hendrick Motorsports and the other Chevrolets to make sure we're, optimizing everything that we can for points for the 48 and the 24. And then we want to make sure Chevrolet is up front at the end.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Mike Solarte. Go ahead with your question, Mike.
Hey, Cliff. As you go into this last regular season race and knowing what you have to get done, and you talked about the kind of competitor that Jimmy is, from a crew chief standpoint, is it almost a nice security blanket feeling knowing that your guy's a 7-time champ and he's got his back against the wall and he's got the proven track record to be a guy that's going to be contending up front? And on the same token, is it kind of scary that your teammate, the young buck William Byron, is a little bit fearless and has got the spots ahead? I mean, it's a really interesting balance that you guys are kind of walking over there at HMS.
Yeah, it is. And I think Jimmy has good perspective, and we all kind of do. If things don't work out for us, in no way does this define Jimmy's career. His career is already defined, right? So if everything doesn't go like we want it to, his success has already been established. Now, on the flip side, if things do go well and we have a shot to go make a deep run in the playoffs, and what that end result could be, it could be a defining moment. So the upside is way higher than the downside is low already. So I think that provides some good perspective, for Jimmy to not necessarily have to make a desperate move or put ourselves in a really compromising position early in the race, and just kind of use his veteran champion experience to know how to make the moves at the right time. And of course, you're always going to be subject to, falling victim to a crash that's not of your own doing. We know that of speedway racing. But there's still a lot as a competitor and as a driver that he can do, and we can do to put ourselves in the best spot. And to, again, I don't feel, and Jimmy does not feel like this is, everything about his career is just riding on this moment, right? His career is already established. It's already defined. His success already speaks for itself. So the downside is, would it be disappointing? For sure. The upside, we could swing for the stars and that'd be amazing. So we'll see how it goes.
And to follow up on that, you talked about the DQ at Charlotte and Jimmy missing the race due to the COVID test. All of that adversity that has been thrown at you, how much have you learned about yourself in terms of being a leader and keeping everybody on the rails and maintaining the focus? Because obviously those two races would basically be an end of season for a lot of teams, but you guys are still very much alive. Yeah,
we are still very much alive, and I'm so proud of our team. And yeah, it does start with the leader and a lot of the perspective I've tried to share with our guys, the positivity that I've tried to have. I mean, I'll be honest, it hasn't always been every step along the way super positive or super easy, right? There's been a lot of challenges, and I certainly have, had my own sense of dejection at times, just with the results that haven't been what they need to be, or when we've had those instances of bad luck. But we have such a strong core group on the 48 team We have a lot of great support from our teammates at Hendrick Motorsports. You know, just Jimmy and his perspective on his career and this being his final season, where there's been so many things that have come up. Obviously totally unexpected, starting all the way back at the beginning of the year with you know, what happened with the COVID quarantine shutdowns. So yeah, I mean, we kind of lean on each other, Jimmy and myself and our whole team, to make sure we keep each other accountable and in check to staying focused on the job at hand, because you know, there's no time during the season that just feeling sorry for ourselves because of the challenges of the bad luck was ever an acceptable response, right? That's never acceptable to handle as a competitor, and especially in this business that we're in. So if a Monday is sad because Sunday didn't go like we wanted, by Tuesday morning we've been ready to charge and go and fight, and that's what we've done. So I'm really thankful to have the group that we have, thankful to have the team and the company around us to maintain a positive outlook and just keep fighting. And that's what we're going to do this Saturday night.
Thanks, Cliff. Hell of a job. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
Our next question is going to come from Jordan Bianchi. Go ahead with the question, Jordan.
I have two questions here. One, what's the conversations been like with Chad Knaus this week?
Very close in our communication of what we're doing with our cars, what we're doing with our strategy. I'm so thankful, you know, along the course of my career working with the 48, you know, Chad, obviously I was his engineer for a while. He was a great leader, a great mentor. He was very supportive of my, you know, switch to the role of crew chief on this team. He still loves Jimmy to death and loves this team. So, you know, Chad and I were talking about it the other day. We both want each other to be in the playoffs, just not quite as much as we want ourselves to be in the playoffs, right? So it's been great to have the relationship with that team. Those guys have done a good job digging out of a few holes that they've been in. And I know that they're going to be strong and tough, and I hope to work with them, and we are going to work with them all night Saturday night and put ourselves both in a good spot. And I would love to be side by side, door to door with them, with points in the bag, coming to the start finish line for the final checker flag. With those guys, that'd be a great position to be in.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, but it sounds like you guys are going to be racing for stage points. You're not going to be trying to lay back and trying to make it to the finish. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you know, because the danger there is if you lay back and you don't get the stage points, and then you get caught up in the crash at the end, then you just gave up all your points for the day, right? And we know the Penske guys, the 21 and the other cars that you know are kind of in contention. Those guys are going to get their stage points, so they're going to make sure that they stay up front all day. So we really have to match that or beat that and make sure that we capitalize on the stage points when we can, because nobody knows if and when the big wreck is going to happen. And if you lay back all day and then you get caught up in the big wreck at the end, then you really have nothing to show points wise for your day. So we've got to maximize everything we can.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Jeff Gluck. Go ahead with the question, Jeff.
Yeah, Cliff, I've been hearing about you talk about working closely with the 24. Obviously, you know, if things stack up with the 21 being able to maintain his position, then you don't get to gain the points theoretically on the 24. So at what point, you know, in the race, sometime in stage 3, I guess, do you have to decide, all right, you know, we can't work with these guys anymore. Now it's everyone for ourselves. You know, we didn't, you know, the 21 didn't wreck out. How do you see that unfolding?
Yeah, you know, facts on the table, and I think you guys have seen this from previous speedway races. You know, if we decide that we're not going to work with the 24 or any other Chevrolets, who are we going to have to work with? The Fords, the Toyotas, right? That doesn't put us in a great position to succeed because they don't want us to succeed, right? So I think through it all, the message, at least within our camp right now, is the best position that we can be in to succeed is going to be to capitalize on help from our teammates. And that does include the 24. Now, coming to a stage end, or you know, coming off a turn 4, are we going to pull out a line on the 24 if we're behind them? Absolutely. But leading up to that point, I don't think it would be wise for us to think that it's, you know, we're kind of doing our own program, because then we're not going to have their support if we really do need it. So, and I would assume that to kind of be the case for all the other OEMs and those other teams as well. You know, if you're going to really take care of your core group, that's what's called for, because otherwise you're going to ask on another group that you're racing against to take care of you, and that's certainly not going to happen.
Thank you.
Well, Cliff, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Good luck this weekend at Daytona.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. Have a good
Take
day.
care now.